Yo, I'm a classically trained music teacher who just got a big brain update about tempos. Here's what's going on. I have always had a problem getting my young students to love the metronome. Why should they love their metronome? Because we find it a really important tool for training the really hard passages that we play, as well as working on our time. So, the challenge with playing with a metronome, which sounds like this, is that people feel that it's inhuman, which it is. It's a machine. Well, so here's what students will do. Either they'll say, I just can't feel the music this way, or experientially, what will happen is they'll try really hard to practice with the metronome. But if they have not found their way to a tempo that's like what they're already playing, they just won't be able to play with the metronome. It doesn't occur to them to find the relationship between the music as they already know it and the tempo that they're hearing from the metronome. So if it's pretty close to the human heartbeat, which for me is about 60 beats a minute, but for other people is different, their resting heartbeat, or if it's like the tempo of the music that they're playing, then they can find their way into it more easily. So I have had plenty of lessons where I tried to get a student to understand how to play with a metronome, and once we are in one of those two pockets, either near their resting heart rate or the tempo that they're already playing their music at, then once we're in one of those places, then we can usually start to thrive. But it costs something to get there, especially if they're fighting through a frustrating experience at the beginning. So here's the download. You ready? I don't want you to go in searching for my tempo. I don't want you starting at a normally accepted low tempo, which sometimes is 60 beats a minute, 1 beat per second, or sometimes is 40 beats per minute. Instead, I want you to play the music at the tempo that you're already playing it. My job as your teacher will be to find your tempo. That's your medium. Now, once you can handle playing medium, then we're going to play with it a little bit, and we're going to shoot for diversifying your tempos so that you have a lower speed tempo, and that's where you do your microscope work. That's where musicians who do a lot of training really love to work. And you also will be looking for a faster tempo. That might be where you do some of your groove work. I would argue that you also do your groove work at a slower tempo, but you really can't experience some things about the flow of your piece of music while you're at a microscopically slow tempo. You really have to be kicking it into high gear, sort of trying to chase your ensemble to find out just how this piece of music is going to feel in the flow. So instead, from now on, I'm going to look for favorite tempo or the basic tempo that you usually play at, which is kind of our medium, then a slow tempo, basically as slow as the student can stand, as long as we're getting improvements out of it. But that's really something that you learn how to do while you're practicing with your metronome. And then also a faster tempo. Sometimes I call this riding the tiger, thanks to the Rhythm Boot Camp, which is a great book. But we want 3 different tempos. And what's cool about 3 different tempos is you don't always want to be doing the same practice task. Sometimes you've been working at a certain tempo and you need to shake things up. Either you have been concentrating a lot and you need to play with a faster tempo, or the faster tempo, you know there are some imperfections that you want to get the microscope on to deal with. It's still true that fast is slow and slow is fast. In other words, if you want to do all of your work fast, you will end up making slow progress, because you cannot remove your imperfections at a speed that's faster than what you're actually playing correctly. And then slow is fast. In other words, to make a lot of progress quickly, you've got to go to a slow tempo. Those of us who are kind of veterans, we know that already, but I also want to make space in my studio for people who don't have that yet, and they understand in relation only to what they already can play. where are they going to start to succeed? At a tempo that's very much like what they're already doing. That's going to be an inroad for them. So as music teachers, it's all about removing barriers. One of those barriers, for me, just got removed. Hope you enjoy that.